Hi everyone, I have someone really special here today, Dr. Nidhi Gupta, who is a gynec cancer surgeon, and she's here to answer some of the most important questions for our women's health. So, Dr. Nidhi, could you explain to us in simple terms what is gynecologic oncology and how does it affect women's health?
Gynec oncology is an area of medicine which specializes and focuses on cancers affecting the female reproductive organs, which are the uterus, cervix, vagina, vulva, and the ovaries. Gynec cancers are really not talked about, or people are not aware of these cancers. So, I want people to know more about this specialized field and be more aware of these cancers.
So, we hear a lot about breast cancer awareness, but could you also throw some light on cancers of the reproductive system?
Great question, Saiba. We know that breast cancer does receive a lot of attention, but gynec cancers are just as important. Because we don't talk about gynec cancers as much, I would like to tell that cancers like ovarian cancers, the symptoms are so vague that about 80 to 90% patients come to us in third or fourth stage. They present to us in advanced stages and the treatment is surely cumbersome. On the contrary, cervical cancer, it is the only preventable cancer amongst the gynec cancers. There are tests which can stop the cervical cancer from happen even before it starts to happen. So, if we talk about these cancers, we can surely spread awareness about these preventive measures as well.
So, you've mentioned about early detection and certain preventive tests that we can go for.
Yeah.
So, could you just elaborate a little on that?
So, cervical cancer is the only cancer amongst all the gynec cancers which can be prevented. There are tests like pap smear and HPV. HPV is the human papilloma virus, which causes about 90 to 95% cases of cervical cancer. After the COVID era, we know if there's a virus, there is a test to test it. So, for cervical cancers, also, there are these tests which we can detect cervical cancer way before they start to happen in our body.
So, who do you think is eligible for these tests?
So, pap smear can be done by women above the age of 25, or if the girls was already sexually active below the age of 25 and above the age of 21, they need to undergo this test once every 3 years. After the age of 30, this test can be combined with the HPV testing. And once you do those two tests together, then we need to repeat these tests once every 5 years. And this screening should continue up to the age of 65. If your last 3 reports have been normal, then we can get out of this screening schedule.
So, Dr. Nidhi, what is actually a PAP test? Because most of us don't even really know what it means.
Yes, you're right. A lot of people do not know about what a pap test is. So, pap test is basically we visualize the cervix by doing an internal examination. Cervix is the lower end of the uterus, which is visualized through the vagina. And some cells are taken through a brush from the cervix and it is sent to our pathologist on a slide, and which is then examined by them, and then they give us a report. So, basically, pap test is a test of the cells of the cervix. And if we find any abnormal cells, the treatment is catered according to it.
So, I have recently read about vaccines for cervical cancer.
Yeah.
So, what are these? How effective are they? And who can actually take it?
So, yes, there is a vaccine for cervical cancer. And because, like I previously mentioned, cervical cancer is caused by a virus. If there is a virus, there is a vaccine. These vaccines have been available for about 20 years in our country. So, at present, there are 3 types of vaccines available: Gardasil 4, Gardasil 9, and our very own Indian made Sarvavac. So, any women, any girl from the age of 9 years up to the age of 15 years needs to take 2 doses of this vaccine. Any girl above the age of 15 up to the age of 26, they would need 3 doses. These vaccines are most effective in young girls. Once the sexual activity starts, there is childbearing, the effectiveness of the vaccine decreases. So it's better that the young school girls are made aware, their parents are made aware for giving them this vaccine.
Makes sense. So, you mean that if a girl takes a vaccine for the cancer, then she does not need to take a PAP test because I think she would be 100% secure then?
So no, this is a myth. vaccination does give you protection against certain strains of HPV. There are hundreds of strains, but there are a few common strains which cause the cancer. Then there are high risk and low risk strains. But even if you're vaccinated, pap smear cannot be avoided. It must be done once every 3 years after you're sexually active.
So, what are the common signs or symptoms that most women overlook while looking for gynecological cancers? And how can they be more proactive in detecting it?
So, talking about gynec cancers, let's talk about ovarian cancer first. Ovarian cancer symptoms are usually very vague as indigestion, bloating, or just big pain abdomen, or feeling, full very fast. You don't feel like eating too much, or you want to go to the bathroom too many times, or you're constipated. So these symptoms, usually women, they want to just self-medicate or just keep taking antacids at home. And they end up coming to us probably a month or two later with an advanced ovarian cancer case. And on the contrary, uterine cancer, the most common symptom is bleeding per vaginum in the women who've had their menopause. They've stopped having their periods and then suddenly one day they start bleeding. So they usually come to us very early because bleeding, they see it and they come, right? And same for cervical cancer, they usually don't come to us very early because the symptoms are again like vaginal discharge. These are also like very common and very less talked about symptoms, bleeding in between your periods or having, bleeding after sex. All these symptoms people don't really want to discuss with anybody. And so they hide these symptoms and they come to us in a late stage.
So these days, social media is also filled with health trends and advices. And I would like the correct person to debunk some of the myths that you've seen on social media and help us be enlightened a little more.
So yes, there are a lot of myths on social media. Myths like, I don't have a family history of cancer, so I'm not going to get it. No. Family history is only 10 to 15% of all the cancers. The rest, 80 to 85%, you are equally at risk of getting cancer as to who does not have a family history. There's another one like, I have my uterus removed, I will not get any gynec cancer. No, you can still get the vaginal cancer, the vulval cancer. If your ovaries are left behind, you can get an ovarian cancer. There are other myths like we talked before that I have taken the vaccine, so now I'll never get cervical cancer. No, again, we need to undergo pap tests and we need to undergo the screening program. So these are a few myths which are, people should know.
So I see a lot of women online and also in my circle stressing about the genetical factor, especially with the BRCA gene in cancers. So is it really that important, and is it a factor that strongly affects you having a gynecological cancer?
So yes, genetic factor is one of the factors in causing cancer. It is not the only factor. Like I said, only 10 to 15% of cancers are genetically mutated or hereditary cancers. So BRCA gene mainly affects and causes the breast cancer, but it can also cause ovarian and uterine cancer. So yes, if there is a family history of breast cancer and if that patient gets a genetic counseling and gets some genetic tests, it does gives us an idea about at how much risk the other family members are. That does not mean that if one member of the family has some cancer and it is genetically mutated, you are going to get it 100%. No, you are definitely at a higher risk, but you're not going to get it 100%.
I think nutrition and wellness are, key topics for everyone these days.
Yeah.
So can you tell us that, what we eat, how we move, our basic lifestyle, does that also affect these cancers?
So yes, absolutely yes. Lifestyle, if not cancers, for general health also is very, very important in today's day and age. And in young girls also, we see a lot of girls with hypertension and diabetes. Cancers is also now like hypertension and diabetes. Even the young girls, young people are getting it. So for gynec cancers, if I emphasize, obesity is a major risk factor for uterine cancer. So yes, lifestyle modification, exercise, healthy diet is the way to go.
So as women have generally seen that, we face a little bit of embarrassment or stigma when it comes to our private health concerns. But how do we overcome this, and how do you think the women should go ahead and seek professional help?
So gynec health, or the, like you said, the personal private health is as important as our general well-being, as our general health of the body. As for for a headache or for a sore throat, we go to a physician. So why not for any abnormal bleeding or discharge for a long time? Why can't we talk about that? We must choose a doctor whom you're comfortable with, whom you can open up with. And we should, as women, we should talk about it more often to our friends and family. And we should not ignore these symptoms, because I'm going to repeat it, that prevention is the key to good health and to avoid cancers in future.
So, fertility preservation is something that a lot of women are always concerned with. And when, they contract cancer at an earlier age, what would be the line of treatment for that?
So yes, Saibad, unfortunately, there are a set of tumors which are called the germ cell tumors, which affect the ovary in young girls, starting from the age of 8 or 9 years up to the age of 25 years. In such young girls, we cannot castrate them or remove both their ovaries and their uterus, right? So there are fertility preserving surgeries wherein we remove the tumor and whatever else is required to complete the surgery, and we preserve the uterus and the normal looking ovary for them to have their hormones for life. But sometimes when the tumor is involving both the ovaries, in those cases, we do send them to our IVF specialists if they can retrieve some ovum and preserve them for future fertility options. And in those cases, we preserve the uterus so that they can go for IVF procedures in future.
So, Dr. Nidhi, we hear about a lot of patients who are detected with stage 3 or stage 4 cancers, and it's always a fear that maybe this isn't curable. So, is there a cure for such stages?
So, in today's day and age, with the advancement of science and technology and surgical expertise, yes, I will not say there is a cure, but we are able to give them good treatment options and good outcome even in late stages. But again, I would like to emphasize that we must undergo preventive tests so that we don't, you don't get to the late stage and you see your doctor as early as possible, so you're diagnosed in early stages.
So finally, Dr. Nidhi, for women like me who are really scared to go to the gynac or scared to going for testing, how do you think we can overcome that fear, and what would your message be for us?
So yes, for women like you and all the women out there who are watching this, your health is in your hands. Don't let fear stop you. You deserve it. So prevention is the key for better health and to prevent cancers in getting diagnosed at late stages.